The United Nations Refugee Agency says it is concerned that the number of displaced people in Sudan's Abyei region could rise after a recent outbreak in fighting. The UNHCR says the security situation in the region remains precarious 1 week after fighting erupted involving forces from both the North and South Sudan. The agency says more than 1/3 of the huts in the Abyei have been burnt down, while many others have been looted or destroyed. It also says the area is nearly empty of its population of about 50,000 people and warns that aid delivery is being affected by the turmoil. Now, the African Union says North and South Sudan have agreed to create a demilitarized border zone with joint patrols stretching along their 2,200-kilometer-long north-south border. The demilitarized zone will be established by July 9th, the day that South Sudan is due to declare independence from the north. And joining us now for the latest on the situation in Abyei is John Tanza of the Voice of America's Sudan in Focus. Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Now, if you could explain this demilitarized zone, where is it exactly?
This demilitarized zone is along the border between the north and the south. And it's going to be some sort of a buffer zone where there will be no presence of military from both sides on that zone. And it's an area that's contested, and it's an area that both sides are all claiming. You know, when people fight, they really want to pull closer to each other and, you know, in attempt to regain Abyei or in attempt to push South out of Abyei. But it's a border area between the north and south. But from what I understand, the south is also concerned about exactly what part of the border, because obviously there are some implications as to what would be sacrificed, depending on where it is. Yeah, as it is now, the border demarcation has not been done.
Right.
It's part of the CPA plan that after signing the CPA, the two sides were supposed to demarcate the border. They should say this part belongs to the north and this part belongs to the south. That has not been done. So now the border between the north and south is contested. You don't know which is north and which is south. But there is the border that was demarcated by the British in 1956. This is what everybody is clinging to. But of course, the north has been pushing the border towards the south, and the south is saying, hey, no, you cannot do this. Our border was here. So it's a contested situation.
Now, we heard that by July 9th, this situation should be resolved. That's very close to the South Sudan's independence celebration event. What is the likelihood that it will be established by that time?
Well, if you look at the history of agreements in Sudan, dating back from 1972, when the Addis Ababa Agreement was signed, ending the first civil war that was known as Anyanya I, that agreement was not honored. And as a result of it, another war broke out in 1983. And the CPA was signed in 2005. There are lots of aspects of CPA that has not been honored. So we are yet to see the goodwill of the two sides in honoring this agreement that they want to implement on the 9th of July.
To talk about specifics, some of the agreements that you're saying were not honored, the demarcation, the border security, and I guess also Abyei.
Yes, the border security, the demarcation of the border was supposed to be formed. There was a commission that was supposed to be formed to demarcate the border. That commission was not formed. They kept delaying it until now it's not formed. The wealth sharing sort of agreement was dishonored. The South keeps saying that they're not getting what they ought to get from their share of the revenue from the oil in the North. The security agreement has not been honored. The JIU component of the SPLA and the Sudan Armed Forces kept fighting each other in the South. That's sort of dishonoring the security arrangement agreement. So with that track record of lack of goodwill, we are yet to see them honoring this proposal for a demilitarized zone between North and South.
And you say that the heart of this lack of adherence is lack of trust between the two of them.
The two sides have been fighting each other for quite a long time. If you like, it's close to 46 years now, and there's lack of trust between the two parties. And in a situation like that, it only gives way for a vicious cycle of conflict. You fight, you sign an agreement, you disrespect it, and you fight again. So this is what we are seeing in Sudan.
To your knowledge, how can the players here be held accountable? Obviously, there are a lot of interveners, the UN, the AU, all these parties trying to create some kind of agreement between these two. So ultimately, how is it going to be enforced? Who's to be held accountable?
The leaders from both North and South should be held accountable for their actions by the international community. And if you like, the Security Council. They did that in Sierra Leone. They held the rebel leaders in Sierra Leone accountable for their actions. When the disarmament was failing, they put sanctions, they put all sorts of restrictions on the Sierra Leonean rebel leaders and even the Sierra Leonean government. And that helped to foster peace in Sierra Leone. In Sudan, I think it's high time that the Security Council or the international community should hold the leaders accountable. If the government in the north is not respecting the agreements, then Bashir should be held accountable. If the south is not respecting their part of the share in the agreement, then the president of government of South Sudan should be held accountable, because at the end of the day, it's the civilians who are suffering in this whole thing.
Yeah, and you can see from all these refugees who have been created now as the result of the Abyei conflict. John Tanza, thank you so much for joining us again.
It's my pleasure.
We'll be hopefully seeing you soon. There's a lot to talk about.